There's no question more resonant at Factory Berlin than the role of community and network in innovation. Catherine Bischoff, CRO of Factory Berlin, joins us now to moderate a conversation about how community drives innovation. As the lead on strategic partnerships, Catherine works with founders, investors, corporates, accelerators, and academic institutions to develop dynamic programs for a fast-changing Germany and global impact. In her role, Catherine launched the Stealth Mode Mentorship Program for female and non-binary founders in 2019 and works to support entrepreneurs and creators from underrepresented groups. Enjoy.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm very, very happy to be here on this beautiful day in Hamburg, beautiful at the end of the day, to talk about community-driven futures. So we're here to really understand how we want to engage with the society to create a more meaningful connection, how we can motivate collaboration, what constitutes an environment that really inspires community and gives it a sense of belonging and ownership. Obviously, we're in an increasingly stressful and digitally driven world with a blurring of private and professional realms. So there's been a reassessment of our value sets, especially over the last 14 months, I'd say, where we've had to readjust in our whole way of being. At Factory Berlin, our core mission is to connect and empower creators who want to reimagine the world. So I could talk about the stunning locations, much like this one here in Hamburg. We could take a tour through the campus, but the point is not about the buildings. Our community is not here for the buildings. Our community is here because of the network. We truly believe that a more connected world should be one where opportunities are completely equitable, where different backgrounds and different identities and different perspectives are all given a voice. We want to create an environment where ambitious ideas can be harvested, where talent finds an outlet, and peer-to-peer knowledge, exchange, and experimentation are at its core. Today, I'm joined with 4 individuals who have their own inspiring communities. They've created blueprints for a more sustainable, inspiring, healthy, and smart future. To my left, I'm going to start with Maximilian Waldmann is a former Google and Rocket Internet and a founder of Kenichi, which was sold to HRS in 2018. He is an active business angel in digital health, including investments into Selfie, MedBell, and Dr. Sam. He's now founding a stealth venture in the healthcare space with community at the heart of its concept. Welcome. Next, we have Janina Lynn Otto, who is an entrepreneur, philanthropist, mother, and regenerative farmer. She's committed to change towards a sustainable future and is dedicated to inspiring and supporting people and individuals, as well as communities, to forge their own path and develop solutions for the challenges of today and tomorrow's world. She's the co-founder of the Holistic Foundation. Welcome, Janina. To my left, Ria Ramjon, who is a writer, producer, and performer from Trinidad and Tobago by way of Boston and Berlin. She's the creator and executive producer of Tanti Table podcast and the host of the science podcast Hormonal, and co-founder of Black Brown Berlin. Her work centers around BIPOC empowerment, anti-discrimination action, and the amplification of marginalized voices. Welcome. And to my right, Thomas Bachem, who is a German entrepreneur, software developer, and investor. He is the founder and chancellor of Code, which is a state-accredited University of Applied Sciences that is embedded into the vibrant network of Berlin's digital economy and actually sits within our Factory Berlin community at Görlitzer Park. So welcome to you all. Let's get it going. Long intro. I would like to know from you, and we're going to have this be a bit laissez-faire, about what your community-driven strategy is. I'd really like to understand from you what you think the impact of community is on society and what your organization's role is in that societal context. Ria, shall we start with you?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here today. Community in the sense of the Black Brown Berlin community and the organization for which I represent, we stand for 4 main goals in our mission, which is to educate, empower, connect, and serve. And for us, that means listening to our community, being in touch with them and hearing their needs and being able to provide a platform, whether it's digital or physical, and specifically provide safer spaces and identify safer spaces for our community to thrive.
Janina?
I would say for us it's very important that we put people in the center. It's so important that we enable people to find their strength, because we have so many smart people on the planet, and we have to bring them together and put all the ideas together so that we can create a great future. So I would say that's the most important for us.
Max?
Yeah, we believe healthcare fundamentally needs to change. In order for healthcare to change, you need to empower communities, both on the practitioner as well as on the patient side, to enhance and improve quality of life. And I think, healthcare is intrinsically something which usually sort of, is taught and is dealt with in an overarching cross sort of focus area setup, and that's why creating a modern healthcare community has or will have a massive impact for overall society, and ultimately is what we believe a key driver for a better future.
For us as an educational institution, specifically as a university, it's like one thing is about really creating a different kind of mindset among our community members, meaning that I think one of the most important parts is for them to bring them together to inspire each other. So I always, for example, develop like to what I saw like others doing, or to my friends, and we want to really show students that there is a totally like different modern world, like being it work or learning, and that is perfect, by the way, being integrated in Factory, because that's exactly what shows that. Then it's a lot about P2P learning. We really think they can learn probably more from each other than from any professor. They're probably also listening better to each other than to professors. And then really coming together interdisciplinary and like in terms of diverse backgrounds in any regards to create better products. For example, we have software engineers, interaction designers and product managers studying with us, but they all learn and work on projects together in interdisciplinary teams all the time. So it's a lot about bringing different people and skills together also.
So community is probably one of the most overused words and misused words alongside innovation, by the way. So we're hitting all the buzzwords today. But how does your organization define community, and what is the makeup of your community? Let's start with you.
I think the question you're raising is exactly, I think, the question that if you're working and you're tackling a holistic problem topic, is exactly sort of the thing one needs to ask themselves. And we believe that you shouldn't have a rigid system or construct which you try and sort of press people into and sort of make them force some kind of shape upon them. But we believe that there needs to be a common set of values and beliefs, which in the healthcare context for us specifically would be looking at a integrated holistic healthcare model, which looks at multiple different sort of areas of speciality, plus sort of a digital angle, because we just fundamentally believe that data and digital workflows can optimize healthcare per se. And I think if you are someone who believes that this can optimize your way of doing things, then this is how we sort of shape a community, and this is what we believe a community can do. And that sort of sets free, that sparks sort of the fire within a community to do something. And I think everything that happens upon that is sort of, a bit like I don't know, an avalanche in a positive way. It's sort of just creates a massive movement and a massive power, and it's just sort of this strike of nature which you can't really control at the end of the day. And I think this is the mistake you shouldn't do. You don't want to control it, because you want to set it into a core set of values. And if it's within this core set of values, this community can thrive.
What about anyone else want to talk about the makeup of their community, or how you identify your community?
Yes, actually, I really like what Max said in terms of a community is often defined as a common set of beliefs and values. And for Black Brown Berlin, and I don't want to speak on behalf of all Black and brown people around the world, because obviously we're not a monolith, but in representing the Black and brown community of Berlin, I would say that it's not only just about skin color or a phenotype or a place of origin, but rather it is about a common set of values and beliefs. So for the Black Brown Berlin community, it means all of the people who actually do believe in creating and identifying safer spaces. Because once a space is safer for the most marginalized peoples, whether it's trans folk, whether it's the LGBTQIA plus community, women, young people, the elderly, the disabled, Black and brown folks, immigrants, once these marginalized communities find a safer space to be, then that means it's a safer space actually for everyone. So yeah, I do love that definition, that it's a common set of values and beliefs, and it's not limited to just a physical space. And in the last year, we've seen that, you know, we've been physically limited in so many ways, and community has now expanded in all sorts of different definitions. Yeah. So I'm excited to be able to reach out from Black Brown Berlin and really reach out into our entire diaspora and connect globally.
Yeah.
I think we're still like all learning also how to cultivate a huge community in the long term best, right? Because things are changing, assumptions are changing, like people wanna like expect different things. And for example, like while at some while we definitely want our communities to be as diverse as possible in any regard, at the same time it's a challenge to connect them then even more sometimes, because like I mean we see that with very young people from like different parts of the world, and there's lots of stuff you need to do first to actually like to basically cross that threshold where that they can actually turn it into an advantage, because they know how to collaborate and they know how to like take value out of this diversity. And if you don't like cross that threshold, if you don't enable them to like with cross-cultural skills and stuff like that, then maybe it's even working less good because they don't feel connected to each other and stuff like that. So we're thinking a lot about like also like what role do kind of sub-communities within our bigger university community play. Like where is it good if you like align people based on their specific interests and some niche, and where do we as a university who have a like responsibility also like basically nudge them to go out of their comfort zones and develop.
That's at the core at Factory Berlin. We have this huge community which consists of over 4,000 members, but we've noticed over the years that people start to self-organize, right? We've got what we call circles, which are essentially thematically focused groups that have congregated on Slack. They start, exchanging. There's this peer-to-peer knowledge exchange. They open up their networks to each other. They offer each other jobs. They this is this incredible sense of much closer collaboration than at the large scale, because this is leading into my next question, is when you start scaling your community, especially when you have the digital aspect, how do you keep that sense of connectivity and sense of belonging to your community? Or even, like for you, Janina, you've got these great plans for Hamburg, but you're building something up right now, right? You're building up an ecosystem, you're building up partners. So how do you keep them engaged? And how do you measure success? That's very different for everyone. In a university setting, you lose your students, they go and then they become alumni, but how do you keep them connected to your community? How do you measure what is a successful community in terms of the vibrancy of the community, but also how long you keep them kind of in your arms, under your wings? Does anyone want to tackle that? Because I'm curious also for us.
Maybe just to say, if you try to see the people and see their spark, see what they are interested in and what they are really looking for, then I think that's the greatest chance always to put the interaction high. So I would always try to, or we are always trying to just see the people like they are and put just the strengths together, and then it's kind of easy. It works on itself. I think, as you said already, you don't have to do too much when you have the values and just everything around.
Yeah.
Maybe also adding to what Janina just said. I think you were asking about sort of measurability of community success, KPIs, where are the hard facts, where's the meat to the bone. And I think healthcare, just looking at healthcare from our perspective, is quite an interesting topic, because previously, this is speaking from a very German perspective, but healthcare was very much measured in terms of revenues and money. So a lot of the sort of institutional players who started tapping into healthcare, they looked at what are the successful businesses which are driving top line, which are getting a lot of revenue. But I believe that healthcare ultimately is measured, or healthcare success is measured in quality of life of patients, and is measured in what is the outcome, what is the result. And healthcare per se is nothing which is sort of a very linear, focused, one symptom topic, but it's a multifaceted topic. And by the nature of disciplines, you need a community to make someone healthier, or to increase quality of life. So fundamentally believe that the success of communities within healthcare can be measured in quality of life of patients, and you see it in a traditional setup. In Germany, it's a Gemeinschaftspraxis or Praxisgemeinschaft, where you have multiple doctors working together. If they work together well, hand in hand, you will see, and numbers prove that, you will see that outcome in terms of quality of life is higher. And I think that is a very tangible proof point for your question in terms of how we would measure this.
That applies very directly to our community as well. I would say that it's not for us about scaling, but rather, scaling happens in some aspects very organically, right? And then the question is, well, how do we serve that? How do we make sure that we keep our community engaged, so to speak? Well, it comes down to quality. And again, with this mission statement of empowering, identifying safer spaces, those are the core values, I believe, that lead to making members of the community feel empowered themselves to then create these, for example, subgroups. And then they're able to feel, well, this is an equitable place. This is a place where I can actually speak freely, where I am respected for who I am and my opinion. Of course, those opinions should be, not racist or discriminatory opinions. We need to have standards. But if we're doing something for the members of our community to truly serve them, to make it a better place, to really make the world a better place for people to live, then it should happen in that way organically. You have this quality that happens, and it's not so much anymore about, well, can I reach every single last Black and brown person and all our white allies throughout the world? No, it's more about who is committed to serving and sharing something so that they can empower others, empower the next generation, and that they in turn also feel safe and empowered themselves to share their knowledge.
Do you do surveys, or how do you measure that?
How we measure success.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is the big question mark for most people in life. How do you measure your success? I can only speak for myself, and that would be from the way that people turn up for one another and how they actually collaborate. So collaboration over competition, for instance. We live in a very competitive world, and we see more and more that this concept of empowerment is seen in practice when people collaborate with others. And there you have, again, this organic sharing of, hey, how can we, or as some people would call it, synergize? How can we put our minds together and come up with a better concept or solution? So in that way, I would measure that as a form of success.
And what about at Code? I see it live on site. I see teams founding startups. I see, people dropping out to do other things. I see people getting hired right away because the talent is just so good. What is the KPI that you?
Oh, don't get me even started, because that's a tough one, because I think coming from the internet and startup scene, basically I would love to work very closely by KPIs and numbers and that. but you need the infrastructure for that, and you need like actually to know what you actually wanna track there. And in when it comes to education, I mean, actually, we're looking at the whole lifespan of someone and what it enables them to do. And it's like, so if the most things that we like for us, at least now in the beginning, were like the first meaningful results of our outcomes would be years and years from now. And like, so I have to trust more on my stomach again, and all of us have. And I think it's a very, yeah, again, like holistic thing where, like, I mean, it's humans after all, and it's much more than just, for example, the specific skills. That's why I talked about the mindset and the fact that the students are very young at that age, so they develop as personalities. I mean, think about your studies. Yeah, there's like a lot of maybe even more important things that happened during that time to you than your studies themselves, and we want to acknowledge that, and we want to even like foster that also by community. And we see that also very holistically, because the world of tomorrow is like for many people, and Factory is the perfect example for that, I guess. Will like work and life kind of mix, right, and blend it into each other, and that's a tough one for everybody, but that's also a huge chance, and it's and that's we as a university, I want to see it like the same way, basically saying like our students are here as like young people developing their personalities and their skills, and we see us as a kind of movement. So I would totally agree that in the end it's about values that you align on, and most of our students come to us for a big part, if not the biggest part, because they love our idea of putting people at the center again and trusting in them, like to go their own learning journey much more than other institutions. Yeah. So that's the values that connect our students.
And that's clearly something that all four of you encompass. And I think that for us as well, just understanding that there's this massive need for a mindset change. There's a need for more human-centric designed concept that, and we have to be adaptable. And so, I mean, starting a university from scratch at the age that you were is already a feat unto itself within a very rigid kind of academic environment. But you are also a role model essentially for the students that come into the program. So I think that's great. And because of the interconnectivity to all these different partners that we have, and the exposure for individuals at that young of an age, where it has such a strong implication on the choices that they make. For me, it's always heartwarming to really see how they soak it all in, and it's not about the studies, it's really about the network that they're in, and the learnings that they have from each other. Which leads me to my next question. So obviously the last 14 months, we've spent most of our time online and behind screens, and much like our audience tonight. So while there are communities, of course, that flourish online, we are of the belief that having physical spaces do add a certain layer of trust and collaboration and inspiration. Of course, you see things, you get inspired by colors, you get inspired by the people you meet, you smell things, But what do you perceive like as being an important balance between that online and offline, especially when we talk about the importance of scaling our communities and creating kind of business models that are there to last, hence they have to have a certain critical mass. So how do you have the physical and the digital balance and still have a meaningful community? Any tips and tricks for our audience out there? I mean, you've had to go completely remote.
Yeah, it's complex. I mean, regarding like the current situation and the past year, basically, I mean, it's tough. It's tough also for us as a community, and I think it's also a lot of the times kind of underestimated how big of an impact that has. I think at least for myself, I can even state that, I mean, there's lots of advantages also to be more flexible, to be able to join basically everything remotely, and like to blend over your private life and your work life. Sometimes it's a good thing, but I think what's heavily underestimated is this I don't know, like the human thing in especially working, that it's not just meetings and topics, but all this interaction, like having lunch together, seeing that your coworkers, your community members are also humans and they have so many different facets. And I think that's heavily missing, and that leads to lots more of misunderstandings. That's my perception, that people are more, you know, like they are basically a bit more negative on assuming things and stuff like that. But in the future, thinking about what will it like, what's the opportunities there also for us as a university. I mean, like learning, the theoretical part of learning is going into e-learning already anyway, and I think that will even be stronger now. And we thought about this. We started thinking about a post-corona kind of concept, and I think maybe like a good answer is to have an even more intense part, for example, for us of the studies that is really like physical and in person, and that basically kickstarts the people knowing each other, trusting each other, and then blending over into a more like a model of like, yeah, going your own route, doing more e-learning. And so I think this combination is important, but you need the physical stuff to really have deep trust and community, I think.
What we did was, even before the pandemic, as I said, Black Brown Berlin is rooted in the concept of creating and identifying safer spaces. So we were talking about and having these discussions about spaces and the physicality of it before the pandemic. So since the pandemic, it is obviously a struggle to meet in person. But one of the things, well, we have a couple of tools that were already in place that I think really helped to serve our community, which was we have a directory and business map. So it's a map that's available online through our website, blackbrownberlin.org, blackbrownberlin.com. And there you're able to identify Black and Brown owned businesses in Berlin. So now that we see places that are slowly opening up, you're able to actually make an appointment or get tested and go and actually support and show solidarity, and also financial support then to these communities and these businesses, because as we know, independently owned businesses, you know, family owned businesses were the ones who were most hit hard by the pandemic. So we, as the Black and Brown community, we always feel the effects of the toughest situations in the world first. So all marginalized people feel those effects first. So that's why we had these tools in place from the beginning. Because when you're an immigrant and you're part of the Black diaspora and you're looking for a place to buy familiar products or products that are specifically designed for your body, your skin, your healthcare, and you can't find them in most places because most places aren't catering to the most marginalized, then you do have to create community. And this is a little bit what we talked about last week when we were just having a conversation, that yes, community is a very overused word, but I would say that the roots of what the concept of community is actually always based in those who are looking for one another. And there's a reason that they're looking. And for us, we were looking for one another, and we were looking for the products that we need and the services that we need. And through creating this business directory and this map, this very interactive map, it's available to the public. Because again, it's not about what skin color you are that connects us, but rather the values and the beliefs that you would like to support the smaller businesses, the independent businesses, the businesses that are run by the immigrants who basically run most of our cities and cater to so many of us. So that was really important during the pandemic, that we were able to, and we're really proud of that we were able to still support a lot of restaurants and service providers. And that is a way that we have been able to bridge that gap. And it wasn't because we were trying to innovate in a business sense. It really came out of a sense of need, and again, this concept of service, serving one another. So being a digital platform, yes, we're able to have blackbrownberlin.com, but then having the business map means you can go there in person. And the other the other kind of service that we provided before the pandemic and still now was the events page. But again, the events are all online. So that, has taken on a whole new form right now. But once things are open again, fingers crossed, we're going to see that there are lots of ways for people to meet one another again. And when not, there's still the online option.
Yeah.
So.
There will always be the online option. Would you two like to add anything to that? Are you okay? No.
Maybe I would just add, I agree with everything, that it's always, of course, good to have a mix, as you said already. And I think you can't say it should be 50-50 or 60-40 or whatever. But it's if you have a framework and you can be very flexible. I mean, we've all seen how important it is to be flexible at those times today. Then it will find its way, as you already said. It's great to have this open social thing and just trust in the cleverness and of people that that we can all find the way together and that we support each other. And when the community feels good, we can feel good, to see that it's all interconnected.
And I think from a sort of virtual physical split perspective, I think there was one positive thing that COVID brought along, which was the surge of telemedical services, which was something which was, prior you didn't want to see a doctor or a therapist online. It was something which was very sort of, had a very negative sort of connotation to it. And I think the current stats I just read was that in 2020, 30% of practitioners practiced virtual care. And now, virtual care is one thing and the physical care is another thing. But I think if we look into the future, if you look at, post-pandemic, what's going to happen, we're going to see these hybrid models coming more and more into play. And oftentimes, hybrid brings upon something which neither the pure virtual or the pure physical has, which is, this perfect, this ideal blend, this cocktail, which is just tasty because it's just this well-rounded model. And you can get that, or in terms of healthcare, it's enhanced quality of care, because you can suddenly speak to someone who is not in Hamburg but he's in Munich. Same day you can speak to someone who is in Berlin, and you can get two opinions, and you can get your physical treatment at the physical location, and part of the treatment is then going to be virtual again, and this is just a massive increase of efficiency. And I think this is something, if we want to see the positive, and I think this is what we need to do after many months of, I think, a lot of negativity. I think if we look at what has this pandemic propelled, and what does that mean for wider communities, I believe that healthcare hybrid models, for example, and overall community hybrid models, as you rightly said, virtual, online, offline events, that combination is again a whole new level. It's something we hadn't experienced previously. And it means for the offline scenarios, there's a whole challenge to suddenly adapt to virtual and vice versa. But I think, this is really what I think will be something very positive and will enlighten all of our lives going forward.
Can I add one quick remark? That is, I think it's not so much just about the physical thing. We have to to understand, basically, for us, for example, a lot of the time it's about commitment also. And I mean, in physical spaces, it's easier, right? When students come to campus and they are on campus for a few hours, they're there, they're present, they're sitting in the audience, they're in the room, they're involving yourself with others. With the online formats, it's more hybrid there too. You might be chatting on one side, joining a video call and doing whatever else. And that's cool, because I trust in people choosing, doing that on their own, how they feel. But for us as institutions or as organizers of communities, I think maybe sometimes we should think more about different types of commitment and whether you can create them also virtually, kind of, and not just about the physical, non-physical thing.
Yeah. We'll see how many people that had signed up for this event actually committed to showing up for it, but we'll check the data afterwards.
I'm super curious to know.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. I really want to thank all four of you for your different perspectives. We're really convinced that we need to build the world of tomorrow. And that has to incorporate a different set of values, the new definition of what constitutes the good life, and in a more sustainable environment, of course, as well. So the culture of community, having an open and curious mindset, and collective intelligence are true drivers of innovation, in our opinion. And so I want to thank the panelists for sharing your ideas around this, because we're in the midst of this massive societal shift. And you were very inspirational, and I hope our audience has also taken a lot of things away and is curious to learn more about the 4 of your initiatives. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thanks.
Thank you also to all the panelists giving us a glimpse into how we can individually drive the future through community, educate, empower, connect, and serve, as Ria said, thereby changing mindsets and foster meaningful connections during the pandemic and after. And I'm sure the Factory Hammerbrooklyn can be such space with all of you involved.